So if I have 4 stories about Jesus that are told from 4 different perspectives by 4 different authors at 4 different times for 4 different reasons to 4 different groups of people that offer me 4 different angles on what Jesus was like and what he said and what he did, do I have a problem, or do I have a fuller, more robust understanding of who Jesus was and what Jesus did? Well, it's the second. The fact that I have 4 Gospels that tell each story a little bit differently only confirms the truth that this really happened. There were 4 different witnesses that saw it. And even though they may each tell the story a little bit differently, it's not that their stories contradict each other, it's that their stories illuminate each other. And that's what we have in this story. We have 3 different accounts of the parable of the sower. And in each account, each author tells it a little bit differently. But what it does is it helps us to get a fuller, richer understanding of the story. So in this story, we have Jesus, and he's telling a story about the farmer. And the farmer goes out and he throws his seeds around. And the first set of seeds, Jesus says, lands on the path. Now, we can say right here that this was obviously a very foolish farmer. Why would anybody plant seeds on a path? But it's probably more likely that it was just kind of overspill. You know, as he was planting the seeds, some of them kind of made it over there onto the path. Have you guys ever used those seed spreader things that you push? They have that little thing underneath that goes and it just throws everything. You guys are just blankly staring at me like you have no idea what I'm talking about. I know you've used them. I think they're so cool. Sometimes when I'm home alone, I fill mine with sand and just walk around so I can watch it throw the sand. You use colored sand and it makes really cool things. No, that's not true. I haven't done that. But you know what I'm talking about. Whenever I use my little seed spreader thingy in the front yard, what always happens is a little bit of what I'm spreading ends up on the sidewalk. Now, if I'm spreading fertilizer, I'm not trying to fertilize the sidewalk. And if I'm spreading grass seed, I'm not trying to grow seed on the sidewalk, just some of the seed ends up there. Because as the seed's getting thrown out everywhere, some of it ends up over here on the path. Now, no matter how long I leave that there, no matter how much I might water my sidewalk, yeah, I don't really water my sidewalk. I have heard about people who water their roads. I guess they live on gravel roads and it keeps the dust, but it still seems a little Wolf Lake-ish to me. But where'd he go? There he is. Yeah. So, seed will never grow on a sidewalk because a sidewalk is completely unreceptive to growth. It's not made for it. And if I leave that seed there on my sidewalk, what's going to happen to it? People are going to walk on it, and birds are going to come and eat it. And Jesus says some of this seed that got thrown out kind of landed on the path, and people walked on it, and the birds ate it. And then Jesus said, now this part of the story represents a certain kind of person. Just like a sidewalk is completely unreceptive to seed, Jesus says this part of the story represents the person who is completely unreceptive to God. The person who won't even give God a consideration. The person who maybe hears the message of Jesus but just kind of throws it away and says, nope, not for me. And Jesus, he says, the birds come and eat that seed and take it away. And what he's saying is that for that person, for the person who just rejects the idea of God, that person never has opportunity to live a productive life. Now that seems a little bit strange to say because you know people and I know people who have rejected God and they seem to be living pretty productive lives. In fact, you know people and I know people who want nothing to do with Christianity or Jesus or God, and yet they're out doing a lot of seemingly pretty good things for other people. And so it may seem a little harsh for me to say they can't live a productive life. I want you to imagine that this morning when I get home, my son Liam comes to me and says, Dad, I've been thinking about something, and I'm going to make a change in my life. Like, that's great, Liam. I'm glad you've been thinking about that. What are you going to do? Well, Dad, for the rest of my life, I intend to eat nothing but Twinkies. So, okay, Liam. Say, wait, Dad, don't judge me yet, Dad, because I want you to know I've really thought about this. And I really believe this is a good thing, not just for me, but for a lot of other people as well. I said, okay, Liam, go on. I'm listening. Well, see, Dad, if I eat nothing but Twinkies the rest of my life, that's going to mean that we're going to be buying a lot more Twinkies. I said, yes, that's true. He's like, and we'll be investing that money back in the economy just like President Bush says we should. I said, yes, Liam, I suppose that's true. And Dad, beyond that, think about how many Twinkies they're going to have to stock at Meijer for us. And Dad, sometimes we go to Wesco and get snacks, so they'll have to stock more Twinkies at Wesco. Dad, if I'm eating nothing but Twinkies, they're going to have to be stocking so many Twinkies, they're going to have to hire a new person just to take care of the Twinkie aisle. Wow, Liam, okay, go on. Well, and beyond that, Dad, if I eat nothing but Twinkies for the rest of my life, do you know how many more Twinkies are going to have to be manufactured? I said, what? I guess I hadn't thought of that. Well, Dad, think about this. They're going to have to hire new people just to make Twinkies because of all the Twinkies I'm eating. So you see, Dad, it's not just good for me and that the Twinkies taste good and are good for me, but it's good for lots of other people because I'm putting money back into the economy, and I'm also creating jobs and spreading out the wealth. Well, wow, Liam. Okay. Now, let's take a minute and deconstruct Liam's argument, shall we? Because I think if you're sitting there right now saying, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I need to eat more Twinkies. Hold on, okay? I mean, I think we should all eat more Twinkies. Because, I mean, is there anything better than a frozen Twinkie? If you've never tried it, you got to try it. Go out immediately, buy Twinkies, put them in the freezer, come back on the next day and try a frozen Twinkie. There really isn't anything better. Liam's argument. Now, here's the problem with Liam's argument. First of all, it's not really going to be good for him to eat Twinkies the rest of his life. Okay? If Liam eats Twinkies for the rest of his life, he will be a high-risk candidate for heart disease by the time he's 12. Beyond that, let's think about his argument a little bit. If Liam eats Twinkies for the rest of his life, will Meijer and Wesco really need to hire new people just to keep the Twinkie aisle stocked? Probably not. Because probably even if he's buying that many more Twinkies, they'll be able to move something from the real food aisles where he's not buying anything anymore. And so he's not creating new jobs, he's just robbing Peter to pay Paul. What about creating jobs at the Twinkie factory? Well, I think probably, even if one person chose to eat nothing but Twinkies the rest of their life, that wouldn't create such a demand on Twinkies that they need to hire new people. There's probably enough Twinkies out there already. I mean, there's a lot of Twinkies out there. Maybe not as many tomorrow because you're all going to get them today. But there's a lot of Twinkies out there. So I say to Liam, Liam, I understand what you're saying. I'm just not sure it's a good idea. But Dad, it is. It is. I've been thinking about it. I got all these reasons. I said, well, Liam, you need a little perspective in your life. Huh? You need a little perspective. You need to step away from the situation and look at the long term because, Liam, you're not going to create new jobs. You're not going to, redistribute any wealth. You're not going to create a new job at the Twinkie factory. In fact, Liam, the only thing that's going to happen from this is you're going to be a very unhealthy little boy. Perspective. Perspective is being able to step away from the situation and say, maybe it isn't what I think it is at first glance. And so if I say I can reject God and still live a productive life, I'm missing perspective. Because what happens if I say, I don't need God, I'm fine on my own, and I go out and I'm productive. I make money. I have a lot of friends. I'm famous. I have a lot of stuff. I do good things for people. I give a lot of my money back to charities. I go into the city and I work. I do all kinds of good things. I'm very productive. What happens then when I get to the end of my life and I discover that there really is a God? And that He really does judge sin? And that He really will judge me? How productive has my life been now? Perspective. You see, Jesus says, look, the first sower, the person who just rejects God, they lose their opportunity to have a productive life.